Hey guys, welcome back to the Blue Podcast with me, Tom, Carlos, and Isaac. And today we have Alan Williams, the CEO of Eastbourne Borough Football Club. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
Good.
Not too bad. I think I'm just going to start this off straight away. I'm really intrigued to see how you got to being the CEO, kind of your journey, as in where do you think it started?
Oh, million mile an hour one, right?
Yeah.
So it started off, I think I was selling cars.
Yep.
I was working at a Ford garage, got bored with that, went to Audi, much nicer cars, gave me a TT as a company car, which was really nice back then, old shape.
Is that the ones that used to fly off the road if you went a bit too quickly?
Yeah, it had this thing called not cruise control, it's like power control. There's a little trick you can do with it, I'll tell you off air, where you can get it to go 0 to 60 in stupid speed. Anyway, that's boring. so I was working for Audi, and a local footballer called Paul Ifill, who was playing for Millwall at the time, came in and bought a car. I spoke to Audi, said, I knew the people at Audi UK, said it'd be really cool if we could do a VIP scheme and I could sell to footballers, because that's what I wanted to do, because football was my passion. They bought it and they launched Audi VIP, and then in no time at all I was selling 10, 15 cars a week to professional footballers. Got to meet loads of them, loved it. And then one of their agents contacted me and said, "Oh, you've done Stephen Reed, who was at Blackburn at the time. You've sold Steve a car. You know loads of players, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want to come and work for me as an agent?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I fancy a bit of that."
Yeah.
And I started working as an agent. I represented a young lad at Brighton called Sam Rents, who was a left back. Brighton released him after his first pro contract. I took him to Crawley Town. Crawley couldn't afford to pay me. So I did that deal in exchange for a season ticket, where I sat next to the owner, a guy called Bruce Winfield. 6 months into that, I got called by Bruce, went and had a meeting with him. He told me he'd got terminal cancer, he was passing away. I needed to help him find an owner for the club. Would I come in and run it and find some investment? I came in and started running the club at Crawley. Went initially as commercial guy. He made me CEO. We then found some investment from overseas. Brought that in. Bruce sadly passed away. We had a great 2 seasons, back-to-back promotions. Did really well at Crawley. Took it as far as we could with what the owner wanted to do. I then left and went to work at Millwall as their first commercial director. Had a brilliant 4 or 5 years at Millwall, and then left Millwall to start my own commercial consultancy, working with football clubs and individuals to create commercial revenue through sponsorship or partnerships or product placement endorsement stuff. Worked football, cricket, rugby, WSL players, as well as guys in the EFL and a few Premier League players. And then I met Simon Leslie, who was introduced to me by a mutual friend, who said, "Look, I've got this guy I know who's trying to buy a football club. Will you meet him and talk him out of it?" I've tried to talk him out of it, but he's hell bent on doing it. Yeah. I met him, spent 3 months trying to talk him out of it. Failed miserably. My biggest failure in football, but also my biggest success, because I'm now working with Simon, running a football club, doing things a little bit differently, and my biggest failure has turned into my biggest success, I think.
Nice.
One of my best pals played in the same position as me, and he was just far better than me. I started off as a forward, and then I started to get a bit of timber, and slowly moved back and I ended up playing as a centre half, where I could just kick people. And then when I got to the point where I was coming up against these young fit lads that were making me look stupid, and I started kicking them rather than playing football, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and I retired from playing at 24. I'd had a cruciate injury. I was missed a lot of work. I wasn't earning any money, so income came before pleasure. And then I stopped playing, and then it was about 5-6 years before I fell back into the beautiful game. And I'm very blessed and fortunate to have earned a living in a game that I love, and the joy of it is now my son loves. So it gives us something to do together, and we were going to football, and now he has the pleasure of coming to our games and being part of that and dipping in and helping with the social media. And he's made a film about the game, which he's at film school, so he's one of his projects is to do a short film, which he's made about the player and the journey and this, that and the other. So it gives us all something to do together, and I'm fortunate to have my wife working there as well. So, which if she didn't, I'm pretty sure we I don't know where our marriage would be, because it's a 365 days a year job, and having her work alongside me enables us to see each other, which is great, and it's someone I'm tight with and can trust 100%. So it's good, and she's on top of that, she's awesome at what she does. So
and she made it a family business then.
Pretty much so, and it's important with small football clubs that you've got good people that buy into and care for what they're doing. Kim looks after the retail and the ticketing side of things as well as about anything else that she needs to turn her hand to. So it gives Simon the comfort and me the comfort that we've got people that we can trust to crack on with.
On young players, obviously you said that it was a bit of a struggle really when you were playing to get further, and obviously as your agent you said you helped a young lad get into Crawley. What do you think is different now to when you were playing for young players to develop and get into professional football? Like, obviously it's you got that 0. whatever percent chance it is of actually making it out of the 5% that are actually good enough. As a CEO and as your agent days, what do you think about future of young?
I think it's
talent?
difficult. I think it's difficult for kids now, and young players. We've got some fantastic guys and girls in both our academies. Our women's team is now flying. They've won the last 8 games and scored numerous goals and conceded very little. And the same with our boys' academy. But it's harder and harder now to be successful as these kids. There's so much pressure, and things like social media put pressure on each other. They put pressure on themselves. Sometimes the most pressure they have is the ones they apply to themselves. So it's not always other people. It's so hard because I think the rewards are so massive now. Everyone desperately wants to do it. You come across kids that are so desperate, they try so hard, they try too hard. They don't focus on the right things they need to focus on, and then you have that section of youngsters who are living out their parents' dreams and ambitions, and there's a lot of pressure from mums and dads for the kids, and you see kids not really wanting to play and being forced to by parents. And we don't really have that at Borough. We're very fortunate. We've got a great youth section, but I've come across it in the where you're talking to youngsters, they don't really want to play. It's just, this is what dad said, this is what mum said, and the social media element. And academies now for the bigger clubs are making it so hard for the smaller clubs because they're just hoovering up everyone. And so it's a difficult world. And I think that there's that horrible saying, the cream rises to the top. I think if the youngsters are good enough, they're going to make it. But then even then, there's an awful lot of luck that needs to fall their way, being right place, right time, being seen by the right people, doing the right thing in front of the right people. And academies now, and we do it. We assess character as much as we assess ability, and how people behave. Academies now, and you go into pro elite academies, they're monitoring these kids from the second they get out of their parents' cars. How they talk to their coaches, how they behave, how they listen, how they shake hands, how they turn up with clean boots, dirty boots, all these things about just going. You've got to stand out. You've got to do something a little bit different so that you stand out. When I was selling cars, I was best advice I ever had was wear loud socks. Because even if people didn't remember my name, they remembered the guy with the loud socks. So, it's the same with foot. You've got to do something to differentiate. We have some, all of our players, they turn up, shake everyone's hand, polite. Whether there's the lady that's cleaning the toilets or whether it's me or Simon. Everyone's treated exactly the same, and the players treat everyone exactly the same, and there's that level of respect which is required. But it's hard. It's really hard.
No. I've seen that professionalism and that being prioritised sort of coming into the game a lot more. I was reading an interview with, I think it was Ben White at Arsenal. He doesn't follow football. He never has. He never had a passion for football. He was just identified very young, was very good at the game, and his parents sort of encouraged him. But because he's such a professional by nature, and because he took on all the advice he was being given, he managed to get there. But there are players who are probably maybe more talented, maybe more passionate, but just didn't have that professionalism, that just didn't get there.
When I was playing, one of the local schools, Gareth Southgate was playing for, he was a year above me, but, in his age group within the school setup, he was never the best player, but he always worked harder than everybody else. He always lived it properly. He always ate correctly. He always prepared correctly. He always worked harder than anybody else, and you hear stories from lots of pros like that get it because they wanted it more than anyone else, and they worked harder for it, and they went above and beyond. And I think nowadays it's very difficult to get by and to fluff it and to fluke it.
Yeah.
You know, and you come across people in business the same with no education, with no, you know, few and far between nowadays. You know, I've been blessed and fortunate that, you know, I'm not educated, I'm not academic, but I have been one of those people in the right place in the right time, and I've used my other skills to get on in my chosen field. But I think that's even harder now, and the pressure to be successful and to get qualifications is put on youngsters too early, and they seem to think that if they don't have it, they haven't got a chance in life. When in fact you have. It's just how you focus yourself and how you apply your other skills into what you want to do. So I don't think anything's unachievable.
No, definitely not. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. It's really interesting from a CEO standpoint that actually a lot of your philosophies seem to be very similar to Simon's. Kind of hearing very similar words, and I think that's probably going to be very important for a football club, especially at your level, to have kind of an ethos throughout which all of you seem to agree on. So I was just sat there listening to what you were saying, and it was a lot of very similar things to what Simon was saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you think that maybe that's why Eastbourne in the future might actually go further than some of the clubs around you in the league?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I think that we're on the same hymn sheet. And I think if you look at, and you'll speak to numerous football people, and you'll hear people talking about DNA of clubs, and this is the club's DNA, this is the way we're going to play through the academy into the first team. I think we have a DNA as a football club on the way in which we behave and the way we put certain things as a priority around welfare, around well-being, around preparing players for life after sport, around being available and making sure that we can help them develop skills that they don't necessarily need for football, but they might need if they don't achieve their dreams of moving up the pyramid. So I think the reason that it works so well for us is the fact that we are aligned in our thought process, and we do have the same beliefs around what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it, and it's a very welfare-driven environment. We look after our guys and girls, and we like to think that they feel valued and respected, and in return we get that back from everyone as well. Simon's inspiring. I mean, you've just got to look at what he's achieved in his business life, and now he wants to bring that into football. You know, and so many times early on the conversation, that's not how it's done in football, and and I get back, well, why not? We don't have to do it the way that it's always been done. Yeah. Let's do it differently, and that's what excites me, is because, we're trying things and we're doing things that haven't been done before, and they're paying off, and we're achieving. So just because the results aren't going, that doesn't mean that the foundations aren't being laid for a better and brighter future.
As a Chelsea fan, I'm sure I can relate to that. Hopefully the foundations are being placed for us, and the future is bright. You mentioned fan engagement, which is something that Simon also spoke about, and it's something that we've all learned about in our studies at UCFB. I never really thought about it kind of that much till I came here, and then obviously hearing two people, chairman and a CEO of a football club, also bringing it up, it's kind of almost cemented to me actually how important that is, and actually shows that, a lot of people say fans come first. But I think actually it's slightly played down. They are very, very important, and they are often, especially in a lower league club, they're what keep clubs alive. People come into the games, people supporting your team. So I just wrote that down. So I pulled it from what you said. I was actually really interested. But that actually brings me on to Millwall as well. I've spoken to a few people who have worked with Millwall, and obviously there's that general consensus that Millwall is, pretty horrible club, but the fans are, a bit boisterous. But I'm interested to see if you think that actually it's quite different there.
Completely different.
Yeah.
The perception of Millwall from the outside is that it's a hooligan football club.
Yeah.
I think they have the most passionate, the best fans. I'm not going to put them above anybody else, but what I saw there? I'll give you an example. Poppy Day collections, that go round all the football clubs on that nearest to the Remembrance Sunday. I can guarantee you, including the Premier League clubs, the collections at the Den are higher than Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man United, Man City. More money will go into those buckets. Charitable donations, anything military related. Where the location of the club is very, originally within the Docklands, where a lot of guys went off to war from that area. and that affinity to military-based charities is absolutely massive. And everything they do with passion. And as in any club, you have an element that sometimes step over the line and step out of line. But it's no different, I don't think. It's just that there's been this whole badge of honour put on, and you can guarantee if there's a big game at Wimbledon, at Wembley, and Millwall involved, you'll have your core superb supporters going, but then you have that little element of idiots that want to come out and ruin it for everybody else. And I know the frustrations of the ownership and the CEO and everyone at Millwall has always been there. And when there's a big game, but I can't fault the fan base there. We won Family Club of the Year.
Yeah.
And when we achieved that, and we were at the Grosvenor House for the awards ceremony, and I was challenged by the chairman at the time, Mr. Berylson, God rest his soul, passed last year. He said to me when I first went in there, "Win Family Club of the Year. I've got this file of complaints about from fans about the family area." And I took that as a challenge. And Andy, me and Andy worked really hard to do that. And we won Family Club of the Year. And when that was called out at the Grosvenor House, everyone was laughing and jeering and booing when we went up and got our award. But, we won it, right?
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to tick certain boxes. The thing about Millwall, you go along there, you'll see 4 generations of families at that club, from grandchildren to great-grandchildren to grandparents, all together, and it's a fantastic place.
Yeah.
All clubs are the same. They have that. Fan engagement is absolutely key.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to meet a guy called Mark Bradley at the start of my journey, who was from the Fan Experience Company, who was working with the Football League, going around advising. When we first got in the Football League, he come to see us and said, "This is what you've got to do. This is what you've got to." So that our whole ethos at Millwall was, and Crawley, was make sure that everyone that comes into that stadium has a great day, whether you win, lose, or draw. And we had kids leaving Millwall happy, even if we'd lost, and that's great because it means Dad and Mum want to come back because the kids want to come back, and you're building that fan base, and we worked hard on that, and there's some good little strategies and tactics you can do, which we've done before. Who knows? Do you guys know when someone chooses their football club? And studies have been done on this.
I'm actually learning this. I'm doing a CRM module right now.
Okay, yeah.
And it's before the age of 8 is when clubs need to kind of get them in, basically.
Because there's been studies. 7 years old. 7 years old is when you choose your club.
Yeah.
So we work alongside Araya. I've done this at Crawley and at Millwall, and we'll be doing it at Eastbourne. That on your 7th birthday, a junior fan will get a shirt.
Yeah.
And Brighton launched this 20 years ago.
I found out about Brighton in that module.
Yeah. So Brighton launched this. A young guy called Matt Hicks was at Brighton. And he did a study into, they commissioned a study at Brighton to discover that, and then they worked alongside Araya originally, the brand manufacturers in Italy, and they started doing 7-year-old birthday shirts.
Yeah.
And loads of clubs have done it since, and loads tried to take credit for it, but Brighton led the way with that, and they've done it so well ever since.
It's really interesting though, because obviously one of the issues with before the age of 8 getting them in is you can't really advertise too much to kids. It's not, when we were learning about it, it's a bit frowned upon to be specifically targeting kids. A shirt is a bit different, because that's just more of a reward. But how do you kind of get around that at a football club? Where
I think your community scheme's key to that.
Yeah.
So you build a community scheme that has outreach into the schools of the town where you're located initially. And then you broaden that. So, we have Tim at Eastbourne that's going around and building communities, the community of building relationships with the school. We've launched a school partnership scheme where schools sign up to be members of that partnership scheme. In return for that, they get a signed shirt to go in their reception, but then once a month they get allocated a player that will go into the school. So each school gets allocated a player. They go in and then they help them roll out an education program. 99% of the time it's nothing to do with sport or football. So the players will go in, boys and the women's team and the guys' team, they'll go in and they'll sit down, and it might be reading, it might be literacy, it might be numeracy, it might be anything like that, and they'll go in and they'll participate and help. Then those kids at that school form an affinity with that player, and then they want to come to the games.
Yeah.
Part of that, the school sign up, and we then start marketing to the families, and we do ticket schemes, and we encourage them to start coming in. So if you engage with your community and give something to your community will give something back to you. Everyone plays the game and says, "Oh, communities." But if you really buy into it and you really invest in your community will invest in you as a football club.
Yeah, I remember I grew up on the Isle of Man, which is very, very far from here.
Good for motorbikes. But
yeah, very good for motorbikes, which I wasn't
right?
into when I was a child.
No.
But I remember in my primary school, we had representatives and players from Wimbledon came in. Obviously, they were at the time in the conference, like they were quite low down the leagues, but they were trying to build back up their fan base after their move and after their split from MK Dons. But I was like, they're sending players over from London, a lower league side, are trying to get kids on the Isle of Man invested in this club, and they actually were quite successful. They have a fan club on the Isle of Man, which I don't think any other lower league team does. But that getting kids involved is so important. I was tied to Oldham from the age of 3. My dad was always taking me to games. He used to be a ball sponsor, so I got in the.
So that was a family association.
Yeah, that was a family association.
Same with me for Chelsea, all family.
Yeah, see, mine's different. My father was rugby. Not interested in the funny shaped ball. He used to come and watch me play, and that's how he loved, because I was playing. But he was never a football fan. He was a rugby guy. But I lived in a cul-de-sac in the village I grew up in, and all the older boys were Tottenham fans. So I become a Tottenham fan, and that's how I got into it. And then that's how But so you'll either fall into family through association, or if you are floating, targeting floating fans at the age of 6 and 7 is what you want to do in your local community, because grassroots football is so dependent on having a robust fan base. We're so lucky. Our gates this year have been brilliant compared to our league positions and compared to what they were last year. And we've got families that come. I've got one family. Dad runs the away travel. Mum runs the 50-50 draw and walks around the ground getting people's money. The 2 girls sell programs and then sell raffle tickets on their way. They come in and they eat before every game in our bar. They buy a shirt. They buy a hat when it comes in the shop. All our merchandise, they're adorned in our merchandise. And that's just one family of many that we have that are totally committed. And, I'd hate to add up what that one family's put into our football club this year. But that's what enables us to survive, is people like that care. And we look after them and we care for them and we appreciate them, and they know that. We've helped a father and son start a business this year that's going round. They're now doing business with 5 or 6 league clubs, and that's going to grow and grow and grow. But just give back a little bit, and you get a bit back. That's what we think.
That's pretty hand up.
Going to another topic, I remember when Simon came, he talked a lot about a lot of teams going to administration. What are your feelings on this? Do you think clubs should be getting more help from the league, or?
Well, you'd think they would get more help, or you'd like them to get more help, but it's football finance is a bizarre thing, right?
Yes.
Everyone outside the game seems to think that rich owners are pumping their money and it's a plaything. Okay, it's not like that. So many clubs get carried away with the excitement of it and pump a bit more. We get one more player, we get one more, and they overstretch themselves. And then you get a bit of bad weather, or you get a couple of games that are off, or then we've had 21 injuries. We started with 21 players. We've had 42 players now. It's probably 41 or 40 when you met Simon 2 weeks ago. And we're 42 players now. But then you've got the kick on from that. So it's not just 42 players, it's 42 shirts, 42 names and numbers that need to be printed, 42 tracksuits, 42 training and travel wear, all these additional spends that come with that. We feed all our players. All our players have full private medical cover. So rather than giving full private medical cover to that, we're doing it for that. And that's all a monthly cost and a monthly spend. So you get yourself in a situation where you're so far in, you have to stay in and you have to keep going. Otherwise, it falls apart. And so many football clubs just don't have if you look at a football club that is a traditional football club that wants to play on grass, for example. We all want to play on grass. That's where football should be played. But as a community football club, we need a synthetic pitch because it works 7 days a week and it generates revenue 7 days a week. And we've now got 39 teams that play on one pitch. Or around that pitch, we've got a walking men's football team that are actually.
I remember hearing about that.
Well, they're playing Arsenal today. So
really?
our men are playing Arsenal as we record this.
Mentioned that. Someone mentioned that last podcast. Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, so they've all gone up in our kit, and they are now affiliated to us. We've got a a ladies team that play of in a league, and we've also got a ladies team for older ladies, 35 pluses that play in a league that play on a Friday night, and that pitch is working for us and generating revenue for us 7 days a week. We've got Man versus Fat on there. We've got we've got a local. Why do you all laugh when I say man versus fat? It's because I said the word fat.
No, it's just funny.
Is it because I'm fat?
It's just a funny concept.
Oh, no, of course not. No, but we've got so much going on that helps us generate. We're lucky we have a bar that's open 7 days a week. We've got a bowls club attached to us, which has got a couple of hundred members that are paying. And then we've got an events team that's generating revenue through parties, and we've got quiz night tonight. We've got party tomorrow night, party Saturday night after the game on a Saturday. So it's you've got to maximise every opportunity. We're fortunate that we're very commercial. I have a commercial background. Simon's incredibly commercial. The deals we're doing, I think, are League 1, League 2 level deals, revenue wise. And if you compare that and have conversations with CEOs at our level, they're not generating the commercial revenue we're generating, nowhere near it. And that's not because they're doing it wrong. It's just we have that 20 plus years. I have 20 plus years experience in football now. So I've made a lot of the mistakes. I'll still make loads, but I've learned a lot from the ones I have made, and it enables me to focus on focus on where the money is, if you like.
You certainly got us sweating there just for a second. the fat
on the spot.
Don't worry about that. No, it's fine.
Can I?
Yeah.
So you mentioned you, compared to the other teams in the league, have this commercial advantage. Do you find that is because you have maybe less competition in your area? So obviously a lot of teams will go to you. I don't know how many other local teams you're competing with.
No, I mean we're sort of between Brighton and Gillingham.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gillingham have a great commercial department. Headed up for someone I work with at Crawley, who's gone on and he's done great work there. Brighton are obviously a massive machine now that are playing in Europe and generating untold revenue, but then again, it could be argued that they've gone too far that way now. So a lot of fans like a little bit more grassroots, real football. No, I just think that a lot of our partners and sponsors are global brands. They're not local brands. We've got some good local brands, but Norwegian Cruise Line as our front of shirt sponsor. That's just a dream deal to have at our level. And then we've got a local design company, Chili Pepper, on our back. We've got Connect Management, who are the social media influence company, on our sleeve. And then other main partners. We've got some good local car dealerships. MG, local MG sponsor us, and we've done a deal with Dobell Clothing, who are Dobell are unbelievable. So they're a mail order suits and menswear and women's wear, and so they've kitted a lot of our lads out and taken them to the races, and we've got photos and this and that. They even got a top that fitted me, which was quite nice. I got a lovely blazer, which I was wearing, but took off because it's so warm in here.
It's the lights.
It's the lights, isn't it? Yeah. I was
It's
trying to do a bit of product placement, but it's a lovely cream.
Look at the camera.
Look, lovely cream tweed jacket. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, actually, I saw that when you came.
You did,
in.
yeah.
it's
I
very
did look
nice.
good, didn't I?
Yeah,
For
very nice.
surprisingly smart, don't you
I
think?
wouldn't even say surprisingly. It's very smart.
Yeah,
It
very
was.
smart.
Thank you very much.
Do you sort of account for this in your sort of future predictions? Do you see yourself having a sort of maybe like a Wrexham? Like obviously they had the insane sponsorship deal with TikTok and the celebrity heads behind them. But having that commercial advantage obviously gave them a big advantage last year in the conference. So do you find you account for that in your planning, or?
No, I think forecasting is difficult in any business, but what we're looking at doing, we're hitting a lot of the numbers we were hoping to hit. There's quite a few we're not hitting. Because of our league position, and the gates aren't quite as what we thought they would be, and the commercial revenue's not quite as we thought it would be. It's still brilliant, but we were really ambitious with the numbers that we'd be hitting. On retail, we've, I think last count, I think we've done about 800 shirts. Did under 100 last year. I think we did about 50 odd shirts last year. We've done nearly 800 shirts. And retail sending them to America, to Australia, to all around the globe. And I think that's come from our TikTok and our Instagram and our social channels, which we're getting. We bought all that in house now. We had that as an agency, but that's come in house. I think Zach's first video hit a million views on Instagram within about 2 days. So we're creating some really good content. Talk about content, and and you guys are doing your TikTok and that now. It's unique consistent, regular content
Exactly.
gets you followers. You know, it doesn't have to be super duper sexy. It doesn't have to be something brilliant. It just needs to be unique. It needs to be regular. It needs to be interesting.
Yeah.
And someone likes and shares it, and then all of a sudden the ones you think are going to do that don't, and the ones you think are.
Well,
And we had that a couple of weeks ago.
literally
We had,
exactly
we had a small segment where we were talking about the fact that Bundesliga 2 one week had, for the first time ever,
Oh, that's
higher
good.
attendance than Bundesliga 1.
Yeah.
We didn't say anything particularly
No, it
interesting,
was
just
just
laying out the
that.
fact. And we got
80k.
80k views, like 3k likes. It's like done absolute numbers
But the-
compared to what everything else we've done.
But the Bundesliga fantasy football in this country's got a massive following, isn't it? I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys do
No,
it.
it
Kyle,
definitely
my
has.
lad, does it,
I
and
don't,
it's
I don't do it.
the rules are so much different as well.
Oh.
You can. It's all,
I've always thought they're better than the way they do the FPL.
The fantasy league.
I've had a little look at it. The Bundesliga fantasy. I think they do it slightly better personally. I might be wrong, but I
What do you-
personally think.
Oh, no,
What do
not
you
not
mean,
knocking
the game
as,
or-
but
Yeah.
It's like I think like
Carl
it's
prefers
probably
it.
like in Spain.
Yeah, because I like how the Spanish ones do it because they.
Because in Spain, for example, if my fantasy team, imagine I have a player, you can't have that player in the same team.
Oh,
it's
okay.
bad for
It's
me,
draft.
like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, there is a draft mode on this, but I don't
No
think
one
I don't
uses
know
it.
anyone who uses it.
That
I mean,
sounds
they-
proper
they-
complicated.
I don't know
for me,
anyone
I
who
don't-
Well,
continues playing
Danny's
this.
behind the camera definitely using it. But
Because I don't see no point. Like for example, you have a Haaland, you have Haaland. What's the point? Like, what's the
Yeah,
competition?
Yeah, if 80% of people have Haaland.
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
the
provide
the
ownership.
money.
Yeah, the ownership thing is a bit daft. You've got to find that gem that has a great week when no one else has them, don't you? And
Cole
captain.
Palmer every week recently. Just saying.
Who's he play for?
I don't know, some small club in West London.
Yeah, just Man City reject. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's a bit harsh. But, and I have him in my team, so I can't comment because he's a regular point scorer, isn't he?
He's got the
He's having a
he's got
good
the
season,
most
isn't he?
goals and assists in one game five times this season than any other player in the Premier League. So I mean, he can't exactly fault that.
Oh, look, mate, I'm 52. I don't get all this stuff.
Well, he just scored a lot of goals.
Yeah, I know
basically.
that's
Yeah.
you
Playing
got-
good football.
ticks a box.
It
Right?
does tick a box.
Yeah, ticks a
especially
box.
for a Chelsea fan right now. Yeah, but actually, that kind of I'm intrigued. So you said you were a Spurs fan growing
Mm.
up. Do you want to talk a bit about Spurs, or is that a bit of a tough subject considering how many trophies you won recently? Because he's also
Oh.
a Spurs fan.
Yeah,
I call
rate
that's
Spurs.
banter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was confused. I thought it was a serious podcast.
We have
look,
some jokes.
Look. Spurs fans are all the same, right? They want to be entertained and they want to
Yes.
see this, that, and the other. And recently, I think in the summer, my son said to me, he goes, "Dad," he said, "Why?" I said, "Why? What?" He said, "I have a burden of being a Spurs fan. Why have you done that?" And it's like, is this going to be forever? I said, "Mate, I've had this for 50 odd years." I
Yeah.
said, "It's just the way that it is." But it's my favourite players, right? Glenn Hoddle, Paul
Oh, yeah.
Gascoigne, Klinsmann, Ginola. That's my era. I was fortunate enough to meet Jimmy Greaves.
Oh, really?
And if I look at some of the, I love entertaining football. I want to be entertained. It's not about, you want to win games and you want to be successful, but I want to be entertained. And we sign a guy from Celtic to be our manager, and everyone's like,
He's
who?
been brilliant, though.
and he's come in. He's come in, and wow! I mean,
Yeah.
The start
now-
of the season.
but that's what I want to see as a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
I want to be. He entertains.
So you're
from
very happy
start
at the weekend then.
Oh, massive! But I'm always happy anyway because I'm used to failure as a Spurs fan. But if you look at it, I want to be entertained. Ange is doing that,
Yes.
and we went up. I went up and did the tour and the Skywalk and everything, and
How was
the
that?
stadium's fantastic.
Yeah.
You look at all the things and everything's great up there. And I'm just happy to be. The only part of the tour which isn't so great is there's no trophy room, and there genuinely isn't. But they sell that to you. There's no trophy room, but we have the largest indoor video wall of any club in Europe, and there's this massive video wall, and then there's little standalone cabinets with a few little trophies from the 30s and 40s in, and someone's boots that no one had ever heard of. But if you look at it, the way Spurs is going, I think this is a great manager. I love the entertaining brand of attacking football that they're playing. It's for me in my life. It's very close behind when Ardiles was manager and we used to play with 5 forwards. And he used to say, "I don't care how many we let in as long as we score one more." And we were playing 5 up front. And we were winning games 5-4 and 6-5 and but
You don't want to grind out a 2-1 win.
no, it's
No,
not.
but one of my best mates he's a big Spurs fan. Always
Yeah.
has been. I've always had a sympathy for them. I think as a
Most
City
people
fan,
hate them. If
as
you're
a
not a
City
Spurs
fan,
fan, most people hate
I've
them.
got a lot of sympathy because we get a lot of unnecessary trophyless or oil club stuff, and I'm like, if you're playing good football, you're playing good football.
Look,
Yeah.
it's-
But at the end, what you play good football for? What you pay? What you?
Well,
play
yeah,
for
to win
football.
trophies
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah.
but you know,
We won-
His English club is Spurs.
No, I mean, I support Seville because I'm from
Okay.
there. But when I arrived here in London, my two best friends, like in my how do you say
Accommodation.
in my accommodation, support Spurs.
Yeah, so that's
and
you.
that was like last season, and I remember that Seville was also really bad. We ended up winning a trophy, but doesn't matter. And Tottenham was Harry Kane and Tim Moore, and they didn't play really good football, and lots of. I remember I went to the Spurs stadium for a game against Brentford. That was horrendous. That they lose like 2-1, something like that, and it was like my mates. I was asking them, why do you support a team? Like, we need to support the team, bro. It's like it's our thing. It's my team, and I rate that. Like, even like moments that are that low,
Yeah.
that people are still there.
Hey,
Always.
we won the Audi Cup.
Yeah, fair.
the closest you come to a trophy.
Have you won the
since
Audi
then-
Cup?
No, we've never won the Audi
I
Cup.
don't think you've ever played in the Audi Cup.
The closest you come to a trophy since then, you did so playing Mourinho boring football, and you'd rather.
Well, I don't know. We
have
got
entertainment
Champions
throughout
League
the
final,
year.
didn't we?
Well, but no.
Poch.
Since then was the League Cup
Okay.
against City, and he got fired the day before the League Cup
Oh,
final.
that count.
Ah,
Okay.
that was
But-
that was interesting.
That wasn't a very good decision in my opinion.
Oh no, it's because they didn't want to pay his bonus. He had a trophy bonus.
Wait,
So-
really? No,
yeah.
So,
no,
th-
no,
so they
no.
say.
So they say.
So they say.
That's the rumours, but that it would make sense as to why they'd sack him at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
Because they
but-
can't justify it if he's won them their first trophy in 15 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd be surprised with that because I would say, as much as Levy has had a lot of critics, he's especially kind of with the stadium bringing in Ange, actually selling Kane finally. I don't know. It's for the first time he's actually kind of doing things that I think a lot of Spurs fans would agree with. Maybe not the Kane sale, but generally, I don't know if you agree with that,
I'm not going to criticise
Levy.
Daniel Levy. No. I mean,
No.
if you look what's been achieved,
Yeah.
Arsenal built a nice shiny new stadium. They weren't allowed to sign anyone for 10 years, were they? Because they
Oh,
had to
yeah.
pay everything back. We were straight back on it.
Yeah.
He's a businessman. And I do believe he has the best interest of the club at heart.
Mm.
It just demonstrates that time and time again, things. Everyone's crying into their shreddies when.
Yes. Context for the before the podcast.
Everyone's crying to their breakfast when Kane left, and I was as upset as anybody else. I had to change the screensaver on my phone, and it doesn't matter now. You move on, and that's what happens with football.
Oh, did you thought that Spurs would have recovered like as they recovered like this season?
No, I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting the season
Yeah,
we've had, and the season's not over yet. Still,
of course,
but I'm pleased with what's happened. I'm pleased where we are right now. I don't watch too much football apart from Eastbourne and Tottenham, and on the TV, it's on all the time in my house when Carl's home. But I don't watch a lot of football. I don't even watch England play anymore. I get bored with that. I don't subscribe to all that stuff. But I do love my club, and I love Tottenham.
I have you in fourth this year. I think you're going to make it, honestly. And I had you in fourth at the start of the year.
I think so.
Champions League, you mean? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're taking Aston Villa easily.
I think. I don't.
Well, I
but
mean,
then again, what a job
See the
he's
last
done.
game.
What a job he's
No,
done
bro,
at Villa.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
they-
Oh yeah, no, same.
Unbelievable.
Spurs have been, bro. They have a lot of key injuries.
They have had, yeah.
They have had.
Yeah.
Bye.
Mhm.
Now they're generally back, and I mean, you seem full strength again, and it's slightly worrying, I think, for most other London clubs, really, because you're playing very well.
Apart from Arsenal, it
Apart from
always
Arsenal.
hurts when they doing well, aren't they?
Yeah,
And they always
I'm
doing
actually
well.
wearing a Porto shirt underneath this because my Portuguese side is Porto. And
Great
unfortunately, we'll be talking about that later on with the Arsenal defeat.
But a friend of mine works at Benfica.
Oh, really?
That's a really good club.
That's a very good club. Yeah, no, I mean, we've spoken about. It kind of actually be interesting to hear it from a CEO's view. The money in football, and especially players coming from the Portuguese league, the Primeira Liga, to generally Premier League clubs, even João Felix to the La Liga. So much money, and it's almost kind of. It seems like it's almost the transfers that are actually pushing that market up and up and up. I'm kind of really interested in what you think of that as a CEO.
It doesn't come down to where we are.
No,
But I think, but if you look at it from the outside,
yeah,
it's got silly numbers, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, some of the numbers that are being quoted, some of the image rights deals players are getting, some of the transfer fees, some of the weekly wages. You just can't comprehend that sort of money. You can't even work out how you could spend that sort of money if you think about it. And
unfathomable, really.
and then you look at what agents are getting their cut of those deals, and then you look at, even at our level, we get agents trying to jump in, you know, and you know, we were trying to speak to a player in the summer, and it turned out he had like 4 people that all thought they represented him, and they all wanted this, that, and the other. And they genuinely have no idea what's realistic in the world, because they read something on Sky Sports or they do this and they think that's what it works. You know, that's how it works, and that's the numbers that are involved. But only a very, very, very small percentage getting the serious money.
But when they do, I mean, Alfie Haaland, literally just for virtue of being Erling Haaland's dad, we paid him £25 million.
That's
Yeah.
mad.
Which is more than he earned in the entire time he was the captain of Man City.
That's mental.
We paid him more
That's
just for birthing
That's amazing.
Erling Haaland.
There's, I mean, they call them super agents, right? There's guys
Yeah.
walking around and driving Bugattis and this, that, and the other, and you know, there's people making a lot of money out of it. But the challenge you have when running a club is someone will pay them, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not going to pay them, someone else will, and you won't get that player. So you have to weigh up as part of the deal and the money that you feel is in that deal, whether or not some of that can go to an agent. Because, you know, we've had people saying, well, it's fine, it's either you or them. They'll pay me, you won't, so I'm taking him there.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, you know, if a manager's saying, well, I want that guy, and you have that challenge of, you know, there's some unbelievable agents out there, and I've met some fantastic agents in my time, but I've also met some people that I wouldn't if they were burning. But that's because they're not looking after people. I
Yeah.
don't believe they have the best interest of the player in their heart all the time. They're not making the move that's right for the guy or the girl. And I've seen that as well in the last 12, 18 months in WSL, where people are being moved for revenue, not for what's right for that individual. You know, and if you have a philosophy and a belief around looking after the mental health of your people, why move them somewhere that's going to damage them when you could move them somewhere that could benefit them and help them develop just for money? And we all have to pay mortgages, and we all have to pay our car loans or whatever outgoings you have, but you do have to keep one eye on what's right for the individual, not just what's right for your wallet. And that's where agents at lower levels start ruining youngsters and filling their heads full of this, that, and the other. And you talk to them.
You only have one chance to get that payday, so
We had it. We've had it just in January with a player that wanted to earn this. We valued him at this. He wouldn't come for this, and he ended up going somewhere for well less than what we were prepared. Because his agent said he could earn a lot more, and those deals aren't there.
Yeah.
You know, they're only there at the top level. It's hard.
Do you think like the agent role have changed a lot, like badly, if that makes any sense?
Well-
Like since you were an agent, like it's like a lot way more of a money game that actually.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. I've been a licensed agent, but when I was doing it, I wasn't a licensed agent. It was prior to that.
Yeah.
And if you like, I was a runner for an agent. And the first agent I worked with was brilliant. You know, and he's still operating 30 years later, and he's still looking after the same players he was looking after then that are now managers. So it shows that he was doing it right. You know, and he's had long-term relationships. But I also worked alongside and worked with agents that just come and go. They just sweep up everybody and discard who they didn't want. And he's not making money, and I'm not buying him boots, but I will buy him boots. It's a difficult one because they're always going to be there. You just got to find a way to work with them, and hopefully find a way to work with the good ones. You know, there's some great guys and girls acting in this space now, but there's also some sharks, and you just got to navigate your way through the waters to make sure that, you know, you're doing business with the right people and doing the right business with the right people, not the wrong one, because they all say what they think they're worth, but you know, you're worth what someone's prepared to pay you, right?
Yeah.
Not what you want.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to be diligent and decide what we have budget-wise and what we can afford to attribute to a certain position or a certain player, and then we stick with that. And that's what, look, listen, you want to come and be part of what we're doing, this is what I can pay you, and we'll give you these benefits. You know, we do lots. You know, we have access to cryo 7 days a week, you know, which is a massive thing, full private medical, all those things which aren't actual salary, but actually add great value as well. So, you know, then you'll have agents that, oh no, it's all about his weekly wage or her weekly wage, but then they don't take into consideration all those benefits. But then you have some guys that go, actually, all those benefits are worth that and some, so that's fantastic. And then when you get to the people that really understand it and that care for their clients, that's nice. It's good doing business with those people. You know, and we have done. You know, there's some great people out there.
I mean, I know you wanted to speak to you a bit more about kind of sporting directors and agents as well, because you are specifically trying to get into kind of the agents area, which is why
I want to become a football agent.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there any more questions that you have?
Yes. So yesterday I was talking with the sporting director of Seville, and he told me like the role of the sporting director in England is changing a lot, and it was before more like, for example, like the CEO has the main word of everything that happens, and then the sporting director, and like in a scale like this, and right now like the CEO and the sporting director kind of like goes together. I wanted to know how it works at Eastbourne. How do you?
Well, we don't have a sporting director.
Fair enough. Okay.
so we have a head of recruitment
Yes.
who will go out and do the work and find the players and do the research and look at the data and then watch the clips and then put a report together. We'll then sit down, Simon as the owner, myself as the CEO and the manager. We determine what's needed and what we want, or what the manager wants. We then work out what we can and can't do. We'll highlight and identify targets, and then it's my job as a CEO to go and get them. So I will make contact, I will negotiate with the agents, I will talk to the players once we've spoken to the club and had permission to do so, if needs be, or if they're a free agent, then I have those conversations.
So you're kind of almost like a CEO, sporting director rolled into one.
At this level, yes.
Yeah.
But as you move up, that would change. You know, we used to have, this country used to be football managers. Now we have head coaches and sporting directors, you know, and the head coach will coach the team that he's given. You know, some clubs don't even, you know, a manager might not have too much of a say in that. They'll say they do, but they don't.
No.
You know, but then look at some of the clubs that work in different types of recruitment models using data and this. You've got to look at what, you know, the likes of they're doing at Brentford and that. You know, the manager's key in that club, but they are very, very excellent.
Yeah.
They are excellent in what they do, and that the way you look at the players they identify and the players that come into that team. You know, a lot of them you would look at and not for me, but then they'll end the season with X assists and X goals and you know, scored this much fantasy points and you know and you look at that and the way they're doing things there, and a lot of clubs are going that way now. It's a lot more data driven. You know, when I come into this, it was I like him, I want him, go and watch him. Yeah, he looks like he can kick a ball. Now, you know, we have files being presented to us with data. We then do background in-depth checks on social media or background checks. You know, want to know what sort of family people come from, what their background is. You know, are they out partying? Are they not? You know, are they active on social media? Does anything stupid go on that? You know, we then do full social media scrapes because we all know that sometimes people make comments years and years ago that years ago might have been considered okay, but now they're absolutely not, in the way in which the world is changing and what is and isn't acceptable. So you have to make sure that you understand everything about that individual when they come into your group, not just because they could damage the brand or the club, but you're putting them into an environment that might have 20 other individuals, and they've got to go in and they've got to gel and they've got to get on, and you know, it's the old bad apple thing. Yeah. You know, weigh it up. You know, what's more important, skill or character? Yeah. You know, sadly, character is as important as skill, because if you bring the one bad one in, it can ruin everything else. So, you know, that whole recruitment thing is massive, and sporting directors now are going to be taking the lead on that, and you're going to find that it's going to switch, that sporting director will be above that manager and reporting into a chairman or a board, and the CEOs are going to be doing more of the business element of the club.
That's how Seville works right now.
Yeah, so a CEO will run the club and run the off-field everything. Yes. They'll still be involved in all the big decisions, but sporting director will do the football, CEO will run the club, run the company, and then the chairman will sit above the top. Some are more involved than others. Some owners and chairmen you see once a month, once every 2 months. You know, Simon is present, as I would say. He is there all the time. So, you know, it's rare that he's not around the place and he's available, and that in itself is a benefit, because our players and our fans know that they can stop or grab me or Simon at any time. And, you know, our training ground is our ground. So, you know, they eat, you know, where we eat, you know, and they're in the building. So, and they all come to us if they've got a problem or need to know. And we have a manager that's open to that. Some managers don't like players talking to owners and CEOs.
Oh, yeah.
They want to keep that. They want to keep that separate. You know, and I've worked with people that go mad if their players talk to a CEO or something without someone from the coaching team being available. That's different for us. You know, our manager embraces and accepts that, and we have an open door policy with all our staff and all our players. So, it makes life, I think, easier because we have a very transparent and open approach to everything.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have one last question?
Yeah, I
go.
do. On that transparency and openness sort of approach, I've read a lot, being a Man City fan, about their approach to sort of like player welfare and player happiness. And I know because of that, what you were saying about that strong philosophy that goes through the club. If someone says they want to leave, that's it. They're going to go. They will be sold no matter how key they are. If they don't want to be there, they will go because they clearly no longer want to fight for the club.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, at the lower league, you maybe can't afford to do that as much. You maybe, if a player doesn't want to play, but he's your best player, he could be the difference between promotion and relegation. The margins are so fine at that level. If there was a player who came to you and was like, look, I want to progress my career, he's your best player, he's maybe your chance to get promoted, would you sell him if you were offered around his value, or would you keep him for the season and let him go, maybe on a free at the end of the season?
We've done that twice this year.
Well, let players go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the start of the season, because we made a transition from a part-time football club to a full-time football club, we retained 3 players. Okay, so our captain, Brad, and we retained Leon Gravata and Shiloh Remy, who were fans' favourites from the previous season, and statistically, and to the eye of all our fans and anyone watching, were probably the 3 best players last year. And it was important for us to try and have a little bit of continuity, although it's really difficult. We retained Leon and Shiloh. Shiloh was on contract anyway, but didn't want to be around. He wanted to play at a higher level, and a lot of people, a lot of the fans would know that, the way he performed last year, he was capable of that. And it got to the point where Dagenham come in the summer. He tried to, him and his agent were trying to find a move. It didn't work. To his credit, the lad got his head down and worked hard and continued being a professional like he should be. And he finally, in January, we had Dagenham come in and wanted to take him. And we reluctantly sold him. We didn't want to because he was, a fan's favourite. And the same thing happened with Leon. We sold Leon to York last week.
No way.
At a really dodgy time for us where we've got a very hectic schedule, and Leon was a creative, exciting young winger. But York City came in last Thursday night and said, we've spoken to his agent, we want to sign him, he wants to come. Can you give us permission to have him up here tomorrow morning? And I'm like, well, no, because he's contracted to our football club. He's a big part of what we're trying to achieve here, and we don't want him to go. I spoke to the player the following morning, and he made it quite clear that he'd spoken to his agent, and he wanted to leave because he wanted to play at a higher level. So when you get to that point where you've got someone that just they want to go, it's about doing what's best for the football club. You have to weigh it up. By keeping him here, are we going to get the best out of that individual? Are they still going to perform? Do they want to be here? Is the mindset right? Especially when we're going into the trenches at the end of the season where we've got to be winning games. And do we look at what's best for the club and try and get as good a deal as we possibly can? He's happy, he goes, because we're about developing people, not standing in people's way. And we were able to get a very good deal for the football club. The lad was happy, he went. So we've done that twice this year. So for me, when we profess to be all about developing young people and enabling them to be the best version of themselves, if a club from a higher level comes in and wants to take one of your players, we'll ask them if they will stay. If they don't want to and they want to go, then it's about doing the best possible deal so that they can go. They're happy. We can do that, but then we have to find a replacement quickly, and we were able to do that. And it was fortunate for us. We bought Leon went on Friday. We signed a lad Friday. He scored the winner on Saturday. So it was like, wow, that's all good. And and we signed Yaya Bamba. And what better name is there for football, right? So they were singing that the second he ran onto the pitch, and then he scores the winner for us, and we win 1-0. So it played out right for us on this occasion, but quite often it won't. But it's difficult.
Well, I mean, I think we would actually love to keep on talking as much as we can, but in terms of time, I think that's unfortunately it for us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for inviting me.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Lovely studio.
Yeah, I mean,
very lucky.
Good questions. Nice young men.
Thank you very much.
Very, very, very good. Thanks for inviting me.
Well,
very interesting.
Guest. Very happy. If you liked what Alan had to say, and obviously Simon 2 weeks ago, I'd recommend going to visit Eastbourne. It sounds like you're doing an amazing job down there. And
you're welcome. I'll do you a free hot dog.
Lovely. All right, and I'll probably take you up on that, definitely.
Always welcome.
My parents live on the south coast, so I'll definitely take you up on that.
Whenever you want.
And but thank you very much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you guys next week for the podcast. Cheers.
Thank
See
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.